Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Now, let's start with the elephant in the room. The minister says, you know, in order to follow the executive order number 5 of promoting local content, that we can produce the solar panels in Nigeria. So banning it will be a way of boosting local production and encouraging us to buy Nigeria. Are we putting the cart before the horse? What do you make of this policy direction? Hopefully, it doesn't become a decision very soon.
Okay. So the idea to ban the importation of solar panels and to focus on local imports is a great mid to long-term goal, right? And I can see where it's coming from because last year alone in Q4, Nigeria spent $150 million importing solar panels. So you can just look at that and say, if we take that and kept it internal, that would be great. But like you said, it's a bit like putting the cart before the horse. So we at Our Energy, we operate across pan-Nigeria. So we know for a fact that the local supply cannot meet the demand. And then let's even take a step back. So there are recent events that have strengthened the macroeconomic benefits of solar, right? So if we look at the fuel ban, the diesel prices, and the band A tariffs. So that has strengthened the proposition for solar. So a lot more people are going for solar. That means that the demand is even going to increase. That will put further pressure on the local supply. So we see this as a phased approach will be a lot better, right? We see it as a phased approach being a lot better, especially now that we have a lot of external investors looking at us. At Our Energy, we recently raised $18 million for our Series B, led by Cardinal Stone investors with some other global investors like BII, EDFI, BEV, Northfund, and all on. So we have investors looking at the sector. So what we should be doing right now
What's that money for?
So it's to scale solar in Nigeria. So Energy has a plan over the next 5 years to have 12,000 solar systems in the country.
Over the next 5 years?
Yes, over the next 5 years.
But how does this translate to the average Nigerian? I mean, let's look at it. If the government is about to ban solar panels, I mean, I think we're discussing about this recently. The prices have gone up. Anybody who's about to have a solar panel in their houses now, the prices are not the same.
So that's where energy comes in.
But if you, I'm sorry, I'm coming. But if you look at the pricing and then you look at the fact that solar panel is no longer the same in terms of what it used to be before, and then the government wants to ban, how does that now affect the average man in the market?
So again, like I said, that's where energy comes in. So part of the financing that we've had to scale solar in Nigeria allows us to do what we call lease to own. We have a payment structure that we call Z-Lite that allows people who can't afford the upfront cost of solar to be able to enter at very minimal cost and phase their payment across 5 years. So if we sort of translate this into the ban, there is the risk that if solar is banned and it's not done in a phased approach, the prices will skyrocket. And there'll be internal competition, which will drive the cost of solar further up.
So let's hold that thought. We're going to very quick break, and when we come back, we'll be speaking some more about the impact of the ban of the solar panels. Stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're now exploring the conversation about the alleged plan of the federal government to ban the importation of solar panels and the impact that this has on our country, its citizens, and also the alleged allocation of 10 billion naira for the installation of solar panels in Aso Rock. This morning, we're joined by Ms. Oghale Ariawhorai, who's discussing this with us. Thank you once again for being here.
Happy to be here.
All right, so now talking about the importation of solar panel, the reason that this would be, that some would argue in favor of this is that we're trying to encourage local production, local manufacturing. Do we currently have the capacity to handle the demand of local with the local production? And if we don't, within, what's the duration or the time frame that we can expect that local production can match the demand?
Okay, so like I said, we operate pan-Nigeria. We know that the local supply cannot meet the demand. And there are things that are happening now that is driving the value proposition for solar, meaning that the demand is even going to increase. And this is manufacturing we're talking about. So it's not something that can be done overnight. You need the right people, the right players on the table to have broad discussions, to understand end-to-end the sector, and to enable our local manufacturers to compete globally, right? And when I say compete globally, I'm talking about for price and quality. So what would be the right framework would be something that is phased, right? That would help our local manufacturers. So give them access to financing, give them access to infrastructure, give them access to technology, because the solar technology has evolved and keeps evolving, right? If you look around the world, it keeps evolving. And then give them access to skilled labor, which is one of the challenges that we have in Nigeria. So essentially, you need a roadmap. So that's why I feel this should be a mid to long term goal.
So if you could suggest this roadmap, what would the roadmap look like, and what would this phasing look like?
So the first part of it, obviously, would be what are the challenges in the current sector? We have inefficiencies in our supply. We have expensive raw materials, because we know that the raw materials that go into the production of solar panels a lot of times are imported. We have limited technology. We have limitations in skilled workers. So we bring people to the table. And we also have external people interested. Even the World Bank has pledged, I think, about $750 million to the scaling of solar energy in Nigeria and across Africa, I believe. So bring these people to the table, let us have discussions, and then have a planned phase. So we encourage local manufacturing, we keep up the import, and as time goes on, we put more stringent goals on importation, so that it starts to reduce and our local manufacturing starts to go up. Essentially, we need local manufacturing to be able to compete and be competitive. If not, the prices for solar will go up, right? The price for solar would go up, and the average person won't be able to afford it.
Realistically speaking, how long should this plan phase be before you can ban, ideally speaking, looking at all the factors that are needed? How long should it take? And also, okay, I'll just go with that question.
I mean, at this point in time, I can't put a time frame to it, but I think we already have a fair idea what are the challenges that we already have in that sector. So addressing them and putting, so each of them would have its own plan. So access to financing would have its own plan, access to technology, having our local manufacturers learn the technology, training, having skilled labor. If you want to have a manufacturing plant that can produce 50 megawatts of panels that would cater for the local demand in the country, you're talking mega plants, a lot of skilled labor. Do we have that available now? So each item would come with its own time frame. So we take time to implement it, and then we can grow our scale as we go. I think now we have, I think, about 2 players or so who can do about 100 megawatts of panels, but that's still not meeting the demand. And even in terms of full utilization of that capacity, we don't have the exact numbers on how that's going. So there is a lot that has to do, but ultimately it still needs to be phased, and we still need to focus on what's most important, which is driving solar adoption. Because the risk that's going to happen is that we wouldn't drive solar adoption, that would drop. And even when manufacturing goes up, there wouldn't be the interest for it. So that's why both of them needs to go hand in hand.
I think the pricing is important too.
Yes.
If we produce locally, does it automatically translate to cheaper solar panels? And why is it currently so expensive? Is it the duties?
So again, that's something else that the government can do. They can give them tax breaks for raw materials, duty-free for raw materials, having the right technology, because globally the cost of solar panels, solar batteries, solar inverters are going down because of technology. So they also need to learn this technology as well. And like I said, they would need tax break on the raw materials, they would need tax breaks on importation duties, and they would need maybe even pioneer status here in Nigeria so that they can compete in terms of price.
I mean, it's all said, but I'd like to look at it from the government aspect. The current government says, okay, there's going to be a ban, there are deliberations around it. With what we hear, I mean, we can be confirmed that the batteries and all that is being worked on and so on. Which would you advise? Is it okay for a federal government like that of Nigeria to put a ban to what has not hit the market yet? I don't know if you get where I'm going. To put a ban on what has not hit the market yet, and then all of a sudden, wouldn't you still be depending on the international, solar panels?
So that's why we're saying that the best approach would be a phased approach, right? We build our local capability, we build our local demand.
Sorry to butt in again, but there's also another fear that let me not the marketing. The negative Nigerian factor would come in where, people would always want to cut corners. The panels, they would have to, use fake materials and so on. How do we cover all of this?
Again, so that's why it becomes a phased approach. We also need to talk about quality as well. We need to set the right quality standards for what we expect in terms of our solar products in the renewable energy space as a whole. I think for the manufacturing, because that's also new as well, I don't think that all these standards have been fully set. So that's why, again, like I said, the phased approach is important to make sure that we are competing in quality, price, and in technology.
All right. Again, let's now go to the conversation about Aso Rock trying to install solar panels. The criticism, it's not, there's been a lot of outrage on social media. There are those who say that the Aso Rock is ensuring that they're doing this, whereas the country is still grappling with the challenges of unsteady power supply and the power grid. But their reason is that they cannot sustain 47 billion naira electricity bill every year. That is not sustainable. So it's better they would do the 10 billion electricity bill. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, so when we did hear the news, it is interesting. So I'll look at it from two angles. One, there is, as Nigeria as a country, we do have our SDG goals that we want to meet. And I think starting from the top down and trying to get Aso Rock to be green and embrace renewable energy is a step in the right direction. And again, the optics matter, right? Especially from the top. And when we're talking about local content, that has to come from the top. So we have to see, and this project, a government project like this, could be what we use to set quality standards. Using local manufacturing and then setting, like what you talked about, setting those quality standards in terms of what we expect from every aspect of a complete solar system. And also, we also look at solar, most times we only think about the panels, but it's an entire system that encompasses the panels, the batteries, and the inverters, and every other thing that encompasses it. So this could be an opportunity for us to set quality standards across the entire sector, right? And the government could leading from the front with a project like this.
Okay, leading from the front is a good
What about the CNG? I don't know, guys, if you remember the CNG. It's still on. We still see CNG vehicles move on, but it's hard to see a government official who has come out to say, "Oh, look at my car."
Well, some of them have.
Videos put on. I've seen.
Yeah, maybe the one
popularly.
they used to go for market runs and things like that, not official cars. But on a serious note now, are we slowly moving towards every Nigerian becoming a minister of power? Because we often have this thing we do. Bad roads, we buy SUVs. No public power, we drill boreholes. No security, we hire private guards. And now we've seen the CNG push. We're now witnessing the solar. Everyone is talking solar, solar, solar. Is it that we're not holding the Minister of Power or the people in charge of power responsible for providing a grid supply power? Because most European countries and in other climes, people that adopt solar is as an alternative form of energy. You can't industrialize on the back of solar. It can't power heavy-duty industrial equipment. You still need power from the grid. So do we run the danger of abandoning and saying just giving up on electricity, that look, we'll never have stable electricity again, so let's just do with our rechargeable, because there's rechargeable everything these days, our solar panels, so we don't bother with NEPA anymore?
Okay, I'll start by correcting the misconception that you have, that we can power heavy duty.
Oh, you can?
Yes, you can. You can have 100 kilowatt systems. You can have 1 megawatt solar systems. So that by the side. So
but how sustainable is that, especially because there will be times when we enter into the rainy season in Nigeria, and I mean, how sustainable is it to be totally reliant on that?
So not being totally reliant on that, but I just wanted to correct the misconception that you couldn't power heavy machinery with solar. And like I mentioned, when you think about a solar system, it's not just the panels. We're talking about the panels, the batteries, which is the storage, and the inverters that has to do with it. So with a proper system, you can store energy that can be used when it's raining or at night to power your system. And secondly, the other question you talked about in terms of everybody becoming a power minister, I don't see it in that way, right? Solar energy is green energy, which is good for the economy. So if everybody is trying to adopt it and optimize, I think we should look for a way to make it, to scale it and to use it to the best benefits. In other advanced countries, they have things like net metering, where they take back power into the grid. When you generate excessive power, you take back power into the grid. So I think that's how we need to look at it. We are not going to abandon the grid. That's never going to be the plan. But it's how do we incorporate it and make everything a holistic system. The world is moving green, and I think it's good that Nigeria is also moving
being a part of it, absolutely.
Being a part of that. So I think what we need to look at is how do we, make everything whole.
Affordable and clean energy is goal 7 on the 17 sustainable development.
So that means the FCTs, right? The Aso Rock is.
Yes, we must all try.
And even Olive lives in Osaka. There's wind. She can adopt wind vane. There's a lot of breeze that area. No, so let's go green together. You adopt wind vane.
At least you're wearing olive green, so we are already on that path. But thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. We look forward to a Nigeria where we've embraced all the alternative means of energy. We're not focusing on what we our current systems right now, where we can have wind turbines. There's hydro. The island, for example, we have so much water. There's so much that we can maximize, and I'm hoping that in the nearest future we all won't have to be shouting up NEPA, the way that our children won't have to shout the way that we did. We've just had a conversation. Yes, so Miss Oghale Ariawhorai, thank you for joining us this morning on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.